What's going on, podcasters and YouTubers? This is not your boy Hav. This is a takeover.
You ordered Hav from Wish, and you got Brandon.
You got me instead. It only took 6 weeks on delivery, but I'm here. So our fearless leader Javier, our fearless leader Hav is on vacation in Florida, so he'll be back with us next week. But with us today, you got me, B. You got our boy Sanj.
Good evening, everybody. As always, it's a pleasure to be with you.
And our man in the chair, Al.
How's it going, everybody?
I'm surprised Hav let this happen because the last time this happened, he didn't air that episode. Hashtag release the steak cut.
Release the steak cut.
So we got what Hav said. Hav says this is going to be a short one. I don't really believe that, but we got a couple things on the menu for today. So we're going to be talking about the Shang Chi trailer. Well, Shang-Chi trailer. There we go. We're going to be talking about a review of Fast 9. We installed that on Thursday. And then we're going to give a quick review of Loki Episode 3, Lamentis. Mm-hmm. So let's kick it off with that Shang-Chi trailer that came out, Thursday night after we watched Fast 9?
Yeah, I think I came home to all the alerts that the trailer had dropped.
Yeah. So this trailer, we got a big look at a couple different things. You know, we saw a little bit more about Shang-Chi fighting. You know, we got some more scenes with the Mandarin. We got a look at the 10 rings, a surprise cameo from a past Marvel villain, and a dragon. So, Sanj, what was your take on the trailer? What would you kind of catch or see?
I was excited for it. Made me excited for the movie because Shang-Chi is not a character or a hero that I knew much about. You know, there's so many in the Marvel universe, but there's only so much you can keep up with. But I mean, looking at the trailer, the fight scenes look like they're going to be really good. The story looks like it's going to have some depth, and just visually, like some of the scenery and the locales that they're shooting in look absolutely gorgeous. And then I'm a big fan of Michelle Yeoh because she plays Philippa Georgiou in Star Trek Discovery, and I just love her character in Star Trek Discovery, and I love her how she plays the character, and very, very excited to see her in this role as well.
Yeah. What about you, Al?
Like Sanj, I wasn't really familiar with the character Shang-Chi, so to see the trailer and to get a little bit more of the story of the movie, to see that they're not actually rings, but I guess bracelets they look like.
Yeah, they kind of look like bracelets. It's a little bit departure from the comics.
Yeah, so that was interesting. And then to see that there also is going to be an ability aspect to it, because some of the scenes seem to show like the airbender traits, like where they were taking over air, water was being controlled. So definitely wanting to see this movie. Like Hassan said it looks a lot of visuals are in this movie that seem amazing, seem incredible, but it's Marvel, so I'm not really surprised. So yeah, it definitely did its job. Makes me want to see the movie that much more.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. In watching the trailer, I had heard that I believe his name is pronounced Simu Liu, who's playing Shang-Chi. Yeah. And, I had heard that, he had to learn martial arts in order to do the movie, which, you kind of say, well, there's other, characters or other actors who can do martial arts already, who could take over the role. But I think the personality he brings into the role, I think, kind of covers the basis there. Mm-hmm. And just like you, Al, I was surprised when I saw the rings, because, I'm a huge Mandarin fan from the comics. Iron Man versus Mandarin is one of my favorite fights. Just with the whole science versus magic and kind of all of that allure there. And in the comics, the 10 rings are their own entity, in a sense. Mm-hmm. So each ring possesses its own power. And just like it has a water power, one ring has an air power, one has like a laser beam, fire is another one. So it was interesting to see them more like bracelets, you know, that can be used as the weapon, and what kind of seemed like it almost seemed like towards the end of the trailer when the Mandarin and Shang-Chi were fighting, that Shang-Chi had on one side of bracelets, 1-5, and then the Mandarin had another 5, and they were kind of fighting with that. So that's interesting to see how that's used there.
Yeah.
Did we see that kind of bring back of the abomination from the Hulk?
Yes.
And he's got fins on his ears.
Yeah. Now, is that tournament like canon? Like, is that something in the comics? Because it seems like there was a tournament and they were going through.
That's Mortal Kombat.
We saw that one. That was on HBO Max.
Yeah, and it looked like Madripoor from Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I agree.
Winter Soldier and Falcon. So so it's going to be interesting to see how they're tying in all these movies and shows and so forth. Yeah.
Because Abomination is supposed to be back in She-Hulk, right? They're bringing the character back.
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool like first look at the character since it's been 10, 12 years since the last time we saw him.
Yeah. It's the first time they're bringing anything back from that first Hulk with Ed Norton. Yeah.
Ed Norton. Yeah. Did anyone catch the dragon in the trailer?
Now,
is that what that's about?
Is that the main dragon from the comic, or is that because the toy? You know how a lot of times the toys slip up and they give out clues from the movie.
Yeah.
The toy is only called the Protector Dragon or something like that. But apparently there's a something.
A Fin Fang Foom, yeah. Fin Fang Foom.
Is that dragon?
So my thinking is it's not Fin Fang Foom, but in the comics, this is kind of weird. There's an alien race that created the 10 rings, and the alien race look a lot like dragons.
Oh, okay.
So my assumption is that this dragon is one of those aliens that created the rings, and Shang-Chi is going to interact with this dragon, which might be how Shang-Chi gets the ability to manipulate the rings later on in the movie, kind of seemed from that last scene.
Okay.
Now, do you think we saw too much in the trailer?
I don't know enough about Shang-Chi to know if we saw too much. You know what I'm saying?
I said the same thing. Like, I feel like the movie, as a martial arts movie, I feel like the premise is to get him to fighting the Mandarin at the end. Yeah. And I felt like we saw a lot of him fighting the Mandarin throughout this trailer. So it kind of seemed like we were seeing a lot of the movie.
Well, I mean, I think that Marvel understands too that Shang-Chi is not as widely known a character as say Captain America, right?
True.
So it's an origin movie, and I don't think they're gonna try to do too much more than have it be an origin movie. And everything about the trailer says we're just gonna find out who he is really.
Yeah.
And this movie is obviously to introduce him and get us interested and hooked on Shang-Chi, to be like, all right, now I want to see this guy in like the bigger story and like really how he can fit in and make some stuff happen, and that's what they've been doing with a lot of characters, like that they outside of the main Avengers, that's basically what they did with every other character, like Ant-Man and stuff like that. They had great origin movies where it was mostly like how do they become that character, and then they fit into other stuff later on, now that we're already comfortable with them, and like we've kind of like gotten like emotionally attached to them, like especially with Ant-Man when they picked Paul Rudd. I mean, who doesn't love Paul Rudd?
Who doesn't love Paul Rudd?
You know what I'm saying?
Plus, they probably didn't want to make it seem like in the past, what was it, Iron Man 2, where they had the Mandarin, and it really wasn't the Mandarin.
Iron Man 3, yeah.
Iron Man 3. So I think they probably wanted to really make sure we knew. Yeah, they wanted us to really know. No, this is the real Mandarin.
Yeah.
This time it's real. Yeah.
See, that's my whole thing. Is like I'm like just like you said, Sanj. I'm really interested in seeing where Marvel's going, because I feel like a lot of these newer characters that they're introducing, like Shang-Chi and the Eternals, are a lot of setup for something, and I'm curious as to what we're setting up with these characters. And Shang Chi, like you said, is I wouldn't call him like a C-list hero. I'd probably put him down as a D-lister. Like I wouldn't call him before. I would call Spider-Man before I call him. I'd call Daredevil before I call him. So I'm trying to see like you said, Marvel's trying to capitalize on unknown characters. Iron Man was really like a B-list superhero before, and they put him to the top of the list. So do you think that Shang-Chi, if done well, is gonna kind of up himself in the ranks of heroes?
Absolutely, absolutely, he will, because they have. I mean, just from a business standpoint, Marvel has a lot of intellectual property that they can use to create content, right? And what do we love more? We don't love anything more than fresh content, right? That's part of our big issue with the DC side of things, is that it feels everything is recycled. Like, how many times they're going to reboot Batman? How many times they're going to reboot Superman? It's like they still come with, it's the same story over and over again. A little bit of tweak here, a little bit of tweak there, different actors, so that's kind of, and that's been killing DC, that they haven't really able to come out and be fresh. But Marvel, on the other hand, they're like, no, we have all this intellectual property. We have all these different characters that we can easily, and so much story to pull from.
Yeah.
No need to recycle anything. I mean, look at it. They even like retired the whole Avengers.
Yeah.
Like they retired them. In one way or the other, right? Some of them bid it. Some of them were just like, I'm good. Done my part.
I'll have my dance now.
I'll have my dance now. And then they move on, and I think it's brilliant what they're doing that way.
And Al, what's your faith in Shang-Chi?
Based on the preview, I have quite a bit of faith in it. It looks like they can pull it through. From what I understand, they gave him some abilities he didn't have in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see them doing that, like you were saying, to bring him up to the level of where the other characters are. Sadly, we have to replace a certain character that I think was going to take a leadership role in what was coming with the next phase. Mm-hmm. So they may be trying to position different people, see how us as the audience react, and see who they can maybe put in that place. Because that's going to be a big hole to fill.
Yeah.
So, who are you going to put in there that can bring that kind of stature that was already there? So, yeah. So to introduce a new character and introduce one maybe that could go in that role or could take on some of that responsibility, maybe it could be Shang-Chi, or, we'll see with some of these other characters. So it'll be an interesting phase to see how they play this out, because they got already phase 5 planned out as well. Yeah. So they have to, lay out all this groundwork and build from there to get us going.
Yeah. So I guess we'll find out September 3rd when Shang-Chi comes out, right?
Yeah.
Right around September?
Ooh. That's right.
All right. I'm there.
Yeah.
All right. So moving on to Fast 9. Holy moly.
So before we go into Fast 9, I mean, let's talk about how that was our first time in a theater in how long?
Yeah, over a year.
Together
in a theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you guys feel about the experience of just being in the theater overall?
I was happy being there with you guys.
Yeah.
I honestly almost forgot everything just because I was there with you. I we talk about how our choice of wearing our masks in the movie theater and such. And I recall times, I remember when we were walking out of the movie theater, I forgot to have my mask on because I was just talking with you guys about the movie. I was just so in there in the moment with you, so I feel like the experience for me was made just because I was there with you guys.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
What about you, Al? What do you think? What was your time like?
No, it was the same thing. Like you said, just being in that movie, the theater, going in, joking about the scenes that came up, and, especially the big one. just looking over, seeing Sanj go, told you. Yeah.
got physically,
And
I got bruises.
yeah, and not having to wait till today to talk
Let's
about
talk
it.
about it. Right, right.
Yeah.
Somebody saw it Friday, somebody saw it Saturday afternoon. We all got to share the moment together and react at the same time and with each other. So yeah, it made a movie that, to me, like I told you guys before we started, I found entertaining.
Mhm.
I don't know if I would say it was a good movie, but we'll get into that when we.
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there.
But
It
but
was a
again,
good time.
like, I still enjoy that movie right now because I remember those moments during the movie more so the movie itself. So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely, like we were saying before when we couldn't go, a good portion of a movie experience is that actual experience, with the people you're going and the crowd around you. So it was definitely great being in that situation again with everybody.
Yeah. What about you, Sanj?
I agree with you guys completely. Like, it is such a different experience being in the theater with you guys on opening night of a movie, and like all of us being there experiencing it in one place. It adds to the movie. It like this is not a commentary on Fast 9 at all. It can make a mediocre movie feel so much better,
Hmm.
than it is, than if you're like just sitting at home by yourself watching it, on the screen. Because every once in a while there's gonna be a joke or something's gonna happen, and it's like I feed off like you guys' reactions too, like that. Your reactions get me hype. Your reactions, like, make me feel more in the moment. So definitely, like what you guys are saying, like it's so awesome to be there, together with you guys. That was probably the most normal thing, like, we've done or I've felt in almost 2 years. Like,
I think that's the first time I've seen you guys in two
yeah, yeah,
years.
and that's what I'm saying. It's like and the fact that we're even talking about it like it's a big deal, and it was just like a normal thing. Like, all right, we're gonna meet up at the movies, and you're like, oh shit, we're gonna meet up at the movies, and I got, like, gotta get shit, gotta get my shit done, gotta get there on time, like all of that. Whereas before, you're just like, all right, I'll be at the theater, like, at whatever time. But now I'm like,
Yeah.
you know.
And I don't know what's going on with the movie theaters starting on time now. That ticket's at 8:30. We got in we were at like 8:40, and usually
That movie
trailers are
definitely
going.
didn't start on time.
That is not
Definitely did not start on time.
started way too early, man. That movie started at 8:30 on the dot. We missed like 10 minutes of the movie. I don't know if that's new normal.
No, I'm like, you're supposed to have all that time with the trailers and their stupid commercials that they usually do and whatnot. So I'm just like, all right, you take your 10 minutes and then the trailers will start. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
but whatever.
Al, you're muted over here.
Oh yeah, that's right. Somebody on a loud ass motorcycle was going down background, so I muted so y'all didn't hear.
Somebody on your end just watched Fast 9.
That's right. Trying some new things.
There's Letty's out there behind your house right now, bro.
So let's talk about Fast 9. So we'll talk about non-spoilers first before we get into the movies. So Sanj, what's your kind of say on the movie and a rating?
My say on the movie is that it is summertime, and that regardless of anything that we're going to talk about, that movie was ridiculously entertaining.
Mhm.
I think that is the perfect way to describe Fast 9. Ridiculously entertaining, and the fact that you can go out to a theater now, I think it's a great way to get back into going to the theater. It's not too heavy. It's a lot of fun. If you're even better, if you're into the Fast 9 series, you get to see old friends again, in all the characters. Everybody's clearly aging. Clearly aging. But some better than others. But
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Mhm.
But yeah. So I would go see it. Go see it. Go see it in a theater. Get back, and claim back some normalcy.
Mm-hmm. Al, what about yourself?
Yeah, no, same thing. Yeah, in terms of a rating, I surprisingly for the quality of film it was, I usually wouldn't give this rating, but it's definitely a you must see. Only because, like Sanj said, to start off the summer and with all of the movies that are coming, this is definitely a movie that's going to get you in the movie going mood again. just because of the experience you have watching this movie. You are going to laugh so much just with the stuff going on. It's just just the two characters alone, Roman and Ludacris's character.
Edge,
To
yeah.
me, they made a lot of the movie bearable, so to speak, because of the humor. And just knowing that this experience is able to be had again, because I was getting nervous, with everything we went through this past year, like how quickly would I get into the fun of going to the movies again and so forth. And this movie just brought me right back into going to the movies and enjoying the experience. And as an overall, like Sanj said, if you're into the Fast and Furious franchise, you definitely have to see this one. And if you're just into summer movies or movies and enjoying it, go watch this movie. Again, hedge your expectations, but definitely know you're going to be entertained when you walk out of that theater.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you guys. This is one you should go to watch. Don't have anything expectations in your head. You go there, you watch it. Absolutely, if you're a Fast and Furious franchise lover like ourselves, go check it out. I won't say you'd be disappointed by it. It's the Fast and Furious franchise. We have gone a long way, as you guys have said in the previous episode. So, I would definitely say you should see this, especially if you're comfortable with the idea of going to go see a movie at the movie theaters. Like, I would say this would be a movie you would have a good time seeing. Like we talked about before, I had completely forgot about everything going into watching this movie with you guys, because watching was a great time with you guys. So, definitely go with people if you're going to the movies, just because you can have the experience again that you've probably been missing. The movie itself is a lot of fun. It's ridiculous in all aspects, whether cool, whether silly. It has everything. It really feels like the Fast and Furious saga's kind of coming to an end. This one really felt like they became aware of themselves. I think they kind of ran with it and made a good time out of it. And so, like I said, you should go see it, make a time out of it. I'm pretty sure you're going to leave enjoying it just the way we did. We're going to rip it apart in the spoilers, but we had a good time seeing it.
Definitely.
So, with that said, we're heading to the spoilers on this one, because there's a lot to talk about. So, I know Haas says this. I don't remember all of it, but Al does a really good job with the editing of the video, so he does a kind of click to go to the spoiler section. So if you haven't seen the movie, I would say pause us, go check it out, bring some friends, enjoy the time, then come back in and join us with this spoiler section so you can laugh along with us as we tear this movie apart. So, head into the spoiler section in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. What the fuck are physics?
What is that?
What the fuck is physics?
Doesn't exist.
Doesn't exist in this movie.
Yeah, there was nothing in the movie that surprised me. Because every time something happened, I was like, of course they can do that.
Of course it happens. Sanj, your top 3 most ridiculous parts of the movie.
The most ridiculous, believe it or not, the most ridiculous part of the movie for me was the fucking magnet.
The constant magnets.
The constant magnets. Right? The magnets. Okay, so I thought when it came to physics, I thought they could not get any worse than the scene, the runway scene where the plane is taxiing down the runway for a half hour without running out of runway. I really thought that was the most utterly ridiculous thing that they had done, and it would not be outdone. Wrong. You didn't see this movie. Wrong. So now, ridiculously, it's ridiculous how they use the magnets throughout, the super magnets. Okay, I saw them setting it up when she comes through with Charlize Theron's character comes through with the plane, and she's using the magnet to pick up the car. All right, I'm like, okay, That makes sense because I've seen how they do work at a junkyard. You know, they've got that big magnet hanging from the thing there, and that they move stuff around with. I'm like, yeah, it's plausible. It can work. You know, okay. But then when they were pulling shit through, like, pulling vehicles through buildings,
The select vehicles, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
right,
Not
right,
anything
they
else
were
in the series.
right, like they were able to target the magnetism. I'm like, that's not how magnetism works. Like none of y'all is Magneto. You know what I'm saying? So there was that. Um, and the when they just how they're spinning the cars around to catch people, like busting up another car to bounce off of so that they can move their
So
car
that
in the
John
direction.
Cena can.
So that John Cena can jump into the. I'm like, come on, man, come on. And then of course, the third. Believe it, this should have been the most outrageous thing, but it was third on my list as of outrageousness. The Pontiac Fiero
The Pontiac Fiero that goes into space.
that goes into space. That was the third. That was the third most outrageous thing to me. But the magnets.
The magnets for me, I was like, I don't know how someone can select what is gonna be captured and then released. Like, I didn't know they were so good at science that they could do that on precision. Al, what are your top 3 most ridiculous parts of the movie?
For me, was that apparently these guys' heads are harder than concrete and wood, because you had that scene where Vin Diesel and Cena are fighting, and Cena picks up Vin Diesel, runs him through a doorway, and Vin Diesel, without his head going forward, nothing, just goes right through the top of the doorway. Nothing. Like, and then doesn't get knocked out, just jumps up like nothing. Like,
You know
what?
what? They got the super soldier serum.
Ah, okay.
They do. They really have
They
to.
all got the super soldier serum.
It was
Then
in the Corona. All the barbecues.
Yeah, and then my next scene that made me go, what? They really are not, look, they just want effects. They don't care how they're doing it. Was, again, with the magnets, they have that super truck that they were trying to take down.
Yeah.
Like, bullets couldn't take it down. It was so overpowered and heavily armored. But they took their 2 small sports cars, magnetized it to the front 2 tires, and were somehow able to use their brakes to stop that truck so hard that they flipped it. What? Come on.
On an Acura.
Oh, good. And then
my next car.
And then obviously, like Sanj said, yeah, somehow we were saying it as jokes, but somehow we ended up in space, not on a spaceship, not on anything that would make sense being in space, but in deep sea diving 1920 suits and a Pontiac Fiero with one jet engine on the back.
And it had thrusters on the side.
Steering thrusters on the side.
Steering thrusters on the side.
That was controlled by a steering wheel.
And a gas brake pedal.
Yes. Well, I mean, the reason that, for me, the reason that the Pontiac Fiero being the space vehicle wasn't as outrageous as some of the other stuff, because I really thought, well, first of all, I called it they were going to space. But I don't think that was that. I don't think it was that much of a stretch. I think we kind of understood that at some point these motherfuckers were gonna do that, right? And then they said in the movie, "We're going to space," you know. Right? I thought the way they would end up going to space was that, just for the way Fast and Furious works, Dom would just hold his breath.
I thought it was gonna happen too. Like, he would be holding on to the spacecraft, holding his breath. I was waiting for it.
No suit, no nothing. Still in his little, vest, his little undervest and jeans,
And Tim's.
My man is out here doing. Oh man, yeah, that gets an honorable mention for me. How everything he does it in Tim's.
Dude, he represents New York so hard.
So hard.
So hard. Those bouncer days, they always keep up. That's number 1 on my list of most ridiculous things, is how the entire movie, Dominic Toretto, Vin Diesel, is running around, jumping around, fighting in Tim's. Not
Wait.
to mention, he had the same pair of Tims. So in my next ridiculous scene, when he falls in the water, he's got those same pair of Tims on. And I didn't know how he didn't die in the water because he was in the water for a long time. He went through a whole flashback in the water before he got pulled out by Letty.
That flashback was like a half hour, bro. Like, come on.
That was half an hour of the 2.5 hour movie.
Okay. Yo, and then go as an honorable mention for the most ridiculous scenes. Cena is ziplining through, what was this, London, Paris?
London,
like Edinburgh, yeah, Edinburgh.
Nobody saw this shit. Vin Diesel was the only one running on rooftops, somehow able to catch him. Nobody's
in Tim's.
Okay.
Jumping rooftops in Tim's.
Oh my God. I'm like
high cuts. That was number one. Number two, obviously the water scene. Like, no, the whole water scene in general. Like, I get the point for the plot, you know, in which we'll talk about in a second. But, like, you know, the fact that my man was not only fell, a solid 7 stories into the water, which is, you know, instant death. You know, that's concrete when you hit it. But he not only sank to basically the bottom, but then Letty pulled him out. They got out. Suddenly, she got him onto some platform, and they were bone dry.
And clearly, they were ready to bone.
If only the rest of the cast wasn't there. And then number 3. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, B.
I was going to say, number 3 for me is in one of the first action sequences of the film is when Tej and Roman are going over the bridge as it's collapsing, and the bridge is completely collapsed, and they still go up and over. That's not how that works. You can't even hit the nos on that one.
You know what? They set the expectation from the beginning of the movie that physics is not going to be our concern in this movie. It's just not going to be our concern.
So coming back to you, sorry we had to do a little fixing real quick with the Skype stuff. So obviously, like we talked about, physics was not a thing, and like Sanj said, they set the precedence from 15 minutes into the movie that we're just gonna do what we want to do. We're gonna make it look cool, and you just gotta roll with it. So my other thing with this movie, you know, is the plot. You know, obviously, a lot of the Fast and Furious movies, we don't genuinely care so much about the plot. I mean, I honestly couldn't tell you what the plot of the first movie was other than Race Wars. You know, and Point Break. It was Point Break with cars.
Point Break.
So, you know, with this one, we revolved around John Cena being the actual brother of Dominic Toretto, and basically their feud that we had to discover over the course of 2.5 hours. That wasn't so much a feud that could have been like a quick conversation, but you know, Dominic Toretto and family, we couldn't let that happen. So how did we feel about that whole bastard brother thing situation? I mean, he wasn't the bastard brother, but he was a bastard in the sense of he was an asshole for what considered was no reason. Yeah. What was the feeling on that, Al?
That was the part I couldn't swallow that part. I liked the flashbacks, and I'd be interested to see if they're considering a prequel spin-off series or at least one movie just doing the prequel of how they all got together and started this whole thing before the first Fast and Furious. But that premise bothered me because even the father, like to the point where they all three had the same chain, and if they're that tight as father and sons, and you think your brother killed them, you don't ask pull him to the side and be like, yo, what the hell? You just assume he did? Like, how did he not pull him to the side and be like, yo, you were the last one under there. What did you do? Like, you just assume he did it on purpose. That's where I got lost, because for them to always have that family, and then for him to still have the whole family mentality after, how do you not show your brother the benefit of the doubt and ask him what happened?
Yeah.
Well,
Like, I didn't understand that. Like,
in
that's
that
where they
flash
lost me.
in that flashback scene when Dom got out of jail, he did go straight up to him, remember, and ask him like, why did you kill that? And he wouldn't answer him. But the reason he wouldn't answer him is that his dad made him promise not to tell him what he was doing, and then because he didn't answer him, Dom just assumed that he did it on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Well,
And then he
yeah.
still gave him the chance instead of beating his ass right there. He's like, "Yo, you race and beat me, you could come home. If not, just keep going, and that's your mercy." I mean, it's you gotta that's it's Dominic Toretto. That's that
Dominic
character, right?
Toretto.
It, so and of course he didn't take no time to consider that something else might have been up. And then you see in his little water scene there where he's having his own flashbacks, he's like, "Yeah, I do remember Dad having some shady conversations on the
All of a
phone."
sudden.
And it's like, "Oh shit."
I
Yeah,
do
he
recall.
wasn't 5. It was like 2 weeks
Right,
before.
right. No, yeah, he's like 18, 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? Like he had some wherewithal. Like
This was like 10 years before the first movie. Like, it's funny because like we talk about that water scene, and he's recovering these memories of him being directly next to people, listening to these conversations, and be like, "Oh shit, yeah, I was there. I heard that." Like, like it was a bit ridiculous. Now, Sanj, for you, the then redemption of John Cena's character, I guess we would call it that towards the end of the movie. What were your thoughts on that?
I figured that was the whole point of the movie, right? For them to introduce this brother to then redeem the brother by the end of the movie, right? Because I mean, look, the whole series has been about family, right? And then like Dom's actual brother shows up, and they're gonna still be at war. And he's gonna kill him. Nah, that's not gonna happen. Like that don't make no damn sense. So you knew by the end of the movie he was gonna be redeemed, and of course they recycled the scene where from Fast and Furious Part 1 where Brian gives Dom the car and is like, "Yo, get out of here."
10-second car.
Get in a 10-second car, and he's just like, "Well, somebody gave me a 10-second car one time, so I could get a second chance." He's like, "That's the least I could do for you." So they basically recycled that scene, and you see him drive off. And then, of course, you knew he was gonna come back and be the one that saves the day when all seemed lost. He's like, and everyone's like, "I can't get there, and over the radio, "I can."
I'd be like, "Who's that? Who's that?" You can't see him. I can't see him. Yeah, it's funny because like leading up to that moment was it was like the head nod by Mia, like the. And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm on your side."
That was so cheesy. Like, why did she do that? Like the way she did it, it's like,
and he was like,
Yeah. It was almost as bad as "Okay, USA."
Like it was like that was the moment.
Yeah,
I'm back.
What the hell?
Okay, USA. I hate you. I hate you.
That would have been, you know what? They should. I am very disappointed in one thing that they did not throw in one of the John Cena's waving his hands in front of.
I was waiting for it. At least one.
Just one time. Just one time. Just do it. At the end there, that would have been the perfect time to do it. He just is out. I mean, you did everything else so cheesy. Why not?
Yeah. I do have to say though, like in the storyboarding and transitioning of a lot of the scenes of this movie, I was generally really confused about a lot of the setup and where we were going with scenes. Like, I feel like we weren't supposed to know who they were going to see, but I felt like once we were in the scenes, I was generally confused as to what the fuck was happening. Like, unless there was some kind of cool car chase or something, I genuinely felt like I had no idea what was happening throughout this movie.
Yeah.
Al, what's your take on the scene transitioning and setup?
No, same thing. Like, I don't know, like it. Other than it looked good, nothing ever made sense as to why they were going here, why they were going there, why they were doing this. The whole betrayal that led to John Cena's character's what's his Jacob, I think is his name.
Jacob, yeah.
Jacob's redemption. Like, let me understand. He's doing everything that this rich, kid wanted him to do in terms of delivering the code, the device, and everything. And he still turns on him. Like, I didn't understand that part. Like, nothing that Cypher, Charlize Theron's character, did to me should have gotten into his head to make him turn on Jacob. So that part was lost. What I thought they should have done, what I thought would have been a better premise, was to have not brought Cypher in until the end and said, it was always me and him against you. We just used you to get this because we knew your Toretto blood would make you whatever, somehow do that and then use that as the betrayal. To have them as a team all along, he's getting this guy everything he wants, no problem.
No problem.
And you betray him because she somehow got in your head. Like, that's where I was like, I don't get where this team up happened. And now she's out of the prison and she's the one not only that, she's the one calling the shots. Like,
out of nowhere in the last 10 minutes calling the shots.
Yeah, they should have done better that they got her out, that her and the other guy were always working together, and that's why he broke her out. And then she was off in the background, always running the show. To have her be the prisoner, that's what they lost me. But and everything about, like I said, everything about this movie, you don't even just watch it. Like, don't try to understand it.
Don't make sense of it.
Yeah, don't try to make sense. Don't even have any perception of reality here. Just take everything that they can do. Yeah, of course they can do that. Of course they can, drive up the side of a canyon and come out on the top on the other side. Of course they can drive into a chain link and use it as a swing to get to the other side. There was so much in this movie that and then, like, I understand they were working for Mr. Nobody and that organization, but again, how do you take a group that started off as VCR thieves and now they're doing ops that you would think special forces would do? like you don't have a special forces unit that can do this. Like, you don't have, what do they call it? Private, oh geez.
I mean, at least in the 80s, they gave us Delta Force movies. Like, these are the guys. Like, they were called Delta Force. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like even John Cena said, "Oh, this spy game, this is my world." Like, you can't have an actual spy that you can send into this. You gotta send.
Like, y'all were in London. James Bond wasn't available. I mean, there's other double O's.
Like,
there's at least 6 other double O's that y'all
I know these cool cats from Oakland who can drive real fast. They once stole VCRs. Let's call them up. And Sanj, for you, man, this is a return of one of our old favorite characters, but I felt like this situation was handled a little on the muddy side of things. What was your thoughts in regards to the return of Han?
The return of Han. Ugh. It didn't make no damn sense, just like everything else in the rest of the movie, right? Of course, yes, you were happy to have Han back, and it was kind of, emotional how everyone else greeted. Like, watching everyone else greet Han was crazy, because that's their boy. They thought he was dead and everything. But then the explanation, like, he was working for Mr. Nobody, and they didn't say anything about who actually was in the car. They showed, like, there was a person in, and he's like, oh yeah, and Deckard Shaw, and there entered the opportunity for me to die and not die. So then that means y'all took somebody and put them in the car and they died? Like, did we just gloss over that?
And I remember in the movie theater too, was in the explanation scene, they showed him rescuing that one little girl that he's been working with, and it looked like he got shot like 7 times.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, the fact that he was rescuing the little girl, that made it pretty cool. Like, oh man, Han's a superhero now, right? But then it looked like he got like
7 buckshots.
Yeah, it looked like they made Swiss cheese out of him, like, and yet he's still alive. I don't get, like, it's just, come on, it's just so much of it doesn't make sense. And then all of a sudden he's a sniper, right? He's a sniper now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Uh,
I just thought it was really, it's been cool the way they've integrated Tokyo Drift and their characters, not only into this movie, but into previous movies in the franchise, especially
Yeah.
Fast 7, I believe they brought him back. And to have Han kind of rekindle or kind of come back and see that guy from Tokyo Drift, that was a cool moment to me. But I wish they had executed that better too.
Wait,
but
wait.
even that guy, like in Tokyo Drift and anytime he showed up, they used the same actor, but they completely changed the tone of the character. He's now
Yeah.
comic relief, and
Yeah.
before he was like a
Super
Dom
serious.
type character, like he was like the Tokyo Dom.
Because
You know
you
what I'm
have
saying?
two. You can't have two.
No, but
But
wait.
at the same time, go ahead, Al.
No, I was just gonna say. Also, in Tokyo Drift, didn't he like just graduate high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
When he went to Tokyo, he had just graduated high school. Things wasn't working out, so the family sent him to be with his father in Tokyo, and that's how he ended up there.
Yeah.
He didn't even graduate high
How
school yet. He
long-
was
He didn't
going to school
graduate.
there.
Oh, how long, according to the timeline, if you were to put these movies on a timeline, this isn't that long after Tokyo Drift. Because remember, Tokyo Drift happens what, after 6 or 7,
Yeah.
timeline wise. So you're talking about between 6 and 7 and the events of those movies to 9. Those
Maybe 3
guys
years.
aged so many, like 20 something years. Like they didn't,
And now he's like a dweeb. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and they're rocket scientists. And they took turning how to Tokyo Drift, and now they're rocket scientists. Like
I was upset they didn't put him behind a car. Like I felt like he should have been behind a car at some point. If
Yeah.
they're gonna introduce him like that, like he was a lead character in Tokyo Drift. Put him behind a car. Let him
You should have
drift.
had them drift one
Let him
scene.
drift. He's the drift king. He was the drift king. Like I don't know.
when you're out of space, you literally drift.
He could have went into space, man. And then he was, like you said, comic relief. I feel like such a waste of his character, but maybe that's also on the comfort of that actor because I have never seen him in anything else other than Tokyo Drift. So
No, I think he's in one of those NCIS series or something like that.
Mhm.
But even still, I think it's more of a reflection of that Tokyo Drift is one of the least popular of all the movies.
Mhm.
So they probably figured. Because I think ultimately, I think that's what 11 is going to be. Is going to be every single character back
Everyone.
somehow. So,
Yeah.
we may see, what's the name's character come back, even though she died.
Gal
supposedly.
Gadot.
Gal Gadot, yeah. Because remember, she just disappeared into the darkness when she fell off the plane.
Yeah.
Like, I can see them. If they brought back Han, and you saw in his scene that he was in the car when it blew up,
Yeah.
if you can now somehow say that he was not in the car and nobody saw it blow up with him in it, you can probably have Gal
You
Gadot
got
fall
Letty's
onto
come
a
back.
front of a car.
Han's come back.
Okay.
Oh,
that's-
you guys
you know-
bring me to what I'm about to talk about next.
Oh, I know you're gonna do it.
So this movie, and in all respects to the late Paul Walker, he did a fantastic role as Brian in the Fast and Furious franchise. Even with his brother filling in, and they digitally put his face on in Fast 7, I believe. This movie had a lot of callbacks to Brian, first as Brian being the babysitter for the kids. And so that's why Mia went out there. Brian, the ex-SWAT, ex-police officer, ex-secret agent, was the one who's babysitting, and Mia, the sister who's never really driven
He's
a car.
literally the only one of them that's had any training that's relevant.
Any training whatsoever. Babysitter. My favorite part of that scene is when they're all like, oh, the kids are in good hands. Brian's watching them, and Vin Diesel goes, Brian. And they played like this major, like a major key.
Yes.
They played that one piano
Yeah.
part, just a wing. And I was like, come on.
Yes.
Come
Everything
on.
that's so cheesy.
It was so cheesy. Like, Brian. And then they just played that one piano line on the major chord. I was like, really? And then the end of the movie, we are having the barbecue, and Vin Diesel, of course, hold on, we can't eat yet. There's one seat missing. Or there's somebody missing.
Yeah.
And then we see the blue Lancer.
There's one empty chair.
There's one empty chair. We see the blue Lancer coming down the street, pops in the driveway, and we go to the credits.
It's a
insinuating
skyline,
Brian.
bro. It's a
It was
skyline.
the skyline? That was the Lancer.
No, it's a skyline,
Oh,
bro.
it's the skyline?
Mm.
Oh, I thought he had the white skyline.
Now he has a blue skyline. Like as soon as he turned and I saw the lights, I'm like, yep, that's the skyline.
Oh, I thought it was a Blue Lancer. Okay, so we have Brian. I'm not gonna say Paul Walker. We've got Brian being insinuated a lot, and just like you guys said, we found a way to bring back everyone.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts that Brian shows up in Fast 10, Fast 10 Part 2, or Fast 11, whatever we're gonna call it? What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead, Al.
Does the brother that they use as the body double, does he act like for a living? I don't know if he's an actor.
I think he kind of acts. I believe like they brought him in because he could act a little bit, like just emotion wise.
I wouldn't mind them bringing. I mean, like I didn't think they were going to make it to 11. And I think they've guaranteed that they're doing at least 11.
I still don't think they're going to make it to 11.
But if they can find an actor who can, that everybody can enjoy, I can see them bringing the character back only because of, since they didn't kill him off and you're going to bring everybody back, they can't just keep alluding to him. You're going to have to bring the character back. So if they can bring back a character of that you can see in that role, if not, maybe use his brother, so at least the resemblance is there. You're paying homage with a family member. If the brother's an actor, from what I just want to remember, he was in acting even to a slight degree. Even if he gives us a poor performance, I think everybody's going to give him the pass on it, and just appreciate the fact that he is stepping in for his brother because of those circumstances. Mm-hmm. I could see them doing that, and I could appreciate that. Again, you see the movie. It's not like we're asking him to step into like an Oscar-worthy role.
Yeah.
But he's showing the respect of filling in for his brother, and continuing his brother's legacy in that role. So I could see that. I would appreciate that if that was how they did it.
Sanj, what about you?
Y'all are gonna hate me because I just came up with a perfect way to do it.
Uh-oh.
All right, so y'all remember Knight Rider, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, remember how Kit...
Don't turn Brian into a car, man. Brian's not the Skyline man.
So Brian's going to have some sort of accident or whatever, and they're going to save his consciousness and put his consciousness in the car.
Brian's a fucking transformer. Oh, shit.
And now when he talks, it's just like a blinking light. Is going to...
Oh no. I can't.
I told you I was gonna hate me.
You gotta turn this guy into a transformer for Fast 10 just to make Tyrese happy.
That's coming.
Listen, it just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. So why not? They went to space in a Pontiac Fiero, bro.
Considering that Tyrese
and not
was
only that,
also
they got that whole contraption built in like 5 to 8 minutes. Movie time, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and previously the Fiero had blown up.
Yeah. Not only that, Tyrese, didn't he just seal his stuff loosely as they were still getting up there?
They were duct taping the shit.
Still duct taping.
They were duct taping the shit.
Yeah.
I will say I did like that Tyrese and Luda they got a lot of shine in this movie. They had a lot of screen time. It wasn't just like a joke here and there. I mean, it was comedic most of the time what they were doing, but like they got a lot of shine in this movie. I did enjoy their back and forth, and I enjoyed the fact that they got so much screen time.
Yeah, and lastly, the last thing with the end of this movie, we did get our mid-credit scene of Shaw absolutely beating the crap out of this guy in the body bag, the punching bag, sorry. And he gets a knock on his door. He opens the door, and it's Han. And we have our ill-fated Han Shaw kind of matchup there. Your takes? Are we getting a Hans and Shaw, or Hobbs and Shaw and Han?
I don't know what Han thought he was going there to do, because Deckard Shaw is going to kick his ass.
Yeah. I would agree. I would agree after watching all the movies.
I mean, let's be real. Deckard Shaw would be like, listen, man, no hard feelings and shit and whatnot. And Han might be thinking something else, but Han's gonna get his ass really killed if he try to go.
I mean, but at the same respect, we saw Hobbs and Shaw, and Shaw was visibly still shaken under the idea of what he had to do to Han. He was really upset about it, and it still kind of shook him. Maybe him seeing Han is gonna bring up some, feelings for him, and maybe even shake him a little bit, where maybe Han get an upper hand a little bit just for a second.
So then they should have done a scene when he's like, Han, and they do another piano chord.
Minor chord. Whoa. I'm scared now. But I don't know. Are we gonna see, like Al said before, are we getting everybody back? Hobbs and Shaw.
Nah, Han looked like he went there to murder Shaw, bro. Look at that face he made.
Well, that was because of Giselle, right? Because of Gal Gadot's character. It was under his influence. Because of him, she died, quote unquote. So, I would go there with a purpose too. Like, if I knew where how to find this guy now. So, do we get our new buddy movie of Hans and Shaw? Like, where do we go here?
That's how we get Gal Gadot back.
That's what I'm thinking.
Right as they're fighting. Right as they're fighting, she shows up and says, "What do you do?" That's how we get her back.
That kind of felt like one of those like in movie scenes, kind of like what they did with Ant-Man for Civil War. It kind of seemed like that was a scene from the next movie, so I could see something like that happening. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, guys, this was our spoiler review of Fast 9. As you can tell, we not only tore it apart, but we loved it at the same time, and there's a lot to talk about. Definitely go check it out. You're going to have a great time watching it, just like we did. Like Sanj said, don't try and make any sense of it. Just watch it. Have a good time. And for our last thing for today, we're going to talk about, like we always do with our Marvel MCU, we're going to talk about Loki Episode 3, Lamentis, and kind of talk about this episode as it kind of took a different pace than the first two episodes, I would say at least. So, Al, what was your kind of overall feel of this episode as opposed to the last two?
To me, it felt like, I know it wasn't, but it felt it compared to the other two as a filler type episode, because it felt like it was giving us more information than it was doing anything.
Yeah.
Like, we learned a lot about Loki through the two Lokis than I think in one episode than we've usually found out about characters throughout like a series.
Mm-hmm.
They've, I think, officially made him canon as a bisexual.
Yeah.
And they threw it, and I like how they do it. They don't make it an issue. It was a one-line throwaway, but it was significant in the fact that it let it hit the nature of his character be known. It addressed, the fluidity of the sexuality that they referenced in his documents on the closing details of the show. But it was just interesting to see him go back and forth with what is in essence himself, just in a different form. So, but again, it was more, to me, filler. Like it explained a lot to us. It told us a lot, but really there's not much happening. They're walking through, trying to get from one destination to another. They get to that destination, then they have to go to another destination. So it felt more of a filler episode. Not that I wasn't satisfied with it. I enjoyed the whole episode and the way they broke everything down. And the ending definitely really makes me want to see how the hell did they get out of that.
Yeah. And Sanj, for you, with this episode, like Al said, we talked about the bisexuality of Loki, and that was a kind of a controversy this week, among fans, and why does Marvel have to go there? And well, it was just a one throwaway line, and obviously if you look in the comics, that's Loki's actual history anyway. Is that really that big of a deal for you, Sanj?
No, it's not a big deal at all for me. I'm proud. I've been proud of Marvel and with how they deal with current topics, current issues. So, and the fact that they were able to do it in such a matter of fact way when they were talking about their, both of them talking about their relationship history. It was just matter of fact. He's like some women, some men, or some of both, a little of
A
both.
little both. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what he said, a little of both. So you get it clearly what it is, and it just moves on. It doesn't. It just needs to be. Our culture needs to be normalized to where like it exists, and that's just what it is. It
Yeah.
exists, and
Mhm.
it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal negatively. It's not a big deal positively. It just is, and we accept that it is, and we move on. Like
Yeah,
bigger
and
things, like it shouldn't be that big of a thing. But yes, I was
Yeah.
very happy with that. But for me, I don't know. Did y'all feel that the episode felt like a first date between the two of them?
I got those
Is it
vibes.
just me or did it
I
have
got
that?
those vibes.
Okay, so I thought I was being weird.
But to
Yeah.
be honest, Loki being into themselves makes a ton of sense. So,
Oh, it totally makes a ton of sense.
like, I think Loki would want to mate with themselves. So, I mean, if we look back in the history, it was actually one of the big memes of this week in talking about this episode. If you look into Norse mythology and North, Loki had at one point transformed themselves into a horse, had sex with another horse, and then one of his children is a horse. So Loki not only has many male sons
No,
and
but mind you, he turned himself into a female horse so that
yeah,
he
he
could
turned himself
carry
into
the
a female horse.
child.
Yeah. So he bore the child, so
Oh,
like
God.
yeah, and that's
So
Norse
so he
mythology.
became a female horse so he could go out there and get some horse schlong, right?
So not only does
And then gestate the
so Loki not only has male kids, male human kids, I'll say it like this, female human kids, but he also has horse kids who are considered
Oh
demigods
my God.
in their own right, I guess. So that was an interesting thing that we talk about, and having that conversation, to be honest, it actually felt kind of fine in the way the show put it, because it was a conversation between two people. Like, it wasn't as if they were saying it to say it and to put it out there. It just felt like a fluid conversation they were having, because it was Loki getting to know Loki.
Mhm.
So like I felt like the fans made a bigger thing of it than the
Mhm.
fact that it was just, I feel like, just general conversation.
Yeah.
there's always going to be those people that no matter what, they're going to like have something to say negatively. And like not nowadays, before I would, kind of get riled up and whatnot. But nowadays, like when those people talk and say what they have to say, I'm just like, you know what, you're a dying breed anyway. So I'm just say what you have, enjoy your First Amendment. You have the right to think and say what you want, and I'm just not going to pay attention and I'm going to move on, you
Mm,
know, and say what you want, do what you want, you know.
yeah. And so, this episode brought a lot as Loki and Sylvie, the person who likes to enchant things, as she says. We don't know if she's the enchantress or not, or she is Sylvie or a Loki, or what kind of iteration she's going to be taking.
Mhm.
I believe they said she was kind of a mix between the enchantress, because Sylvie is
The
a
Enchantress.
form
Yeah.
of the enchantress, and then she's a Loki. So
Yeah.
we're kind of seeing, maybe a mix of the character, or maybe she hasn't decided who she is yet. Maybe she doesn't want to go by Loki.
Mhm.
Um, so we're seeing this week, in getting to, I would say, understand Sylvie, because she could be playing, a game against Loki, mind games, as she's
Mhm.
the enchantress, possibly. We're starting to see a dual side to the TVA,
Mhm.
and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy in the series.
Yeah.
Sanj, what's your take on that?
Well, the big reveal for the TVA in this one was, remember, Sylvie was talking about when she was trying to get the information from the one TVA agent, and
That
she
they're
had to
all
go into,
variants, yeah.
right, that she had to go into her life before, and then Loki's like, "What do you mean their life before? They told me that they were made by the timekeepers or whatever." She's like, "No, they're all variants. Like they all had a life." and whatever. So you see like the wheels start turning in his head, like, okay, what's really going on here? And then they had hinted at that before with um Mobius being so into jet skis,
Yeah.
right? So it's like there's something latent in his psyche that's drawing him to the jet ski there. So remember, we talked about this from the beginning. Like the TVA is not what it seems,
Yeah.
and there's definitely more to it, and they're peeling back those layers as
Yeah.
we go along.
And Al, what's your thoughts on that as well?
Just to see what's the whole plan for the TVA. Like, what is their end game, so to speak, for what they're trying to do with the TVA? If you actually do have, so one of my questions is there really going to be timekeepers?
That's what I'm waiting for
Or
too.
is what's her name? What's her name's character? Is she really the one running the show and hiding behind there being timekeepers?
Hmm.
So I'm wondering if they maybe did they exist? Do they no longer exist? Are they variants themselves? So just to see where they're going with this show, what's the whole premise of what are they trying to do that's going to then show that they are the bad guys.
Yeah.
So like just to see that, because right now I'm not seeing it, so I'm just curious as to what's their goal for what they're using the TVA for, and that'll be an interesting reveal when that comes.
That's what I'm actually having like kind of the same thoughts as you because um, every time we see the judge in her office with Mobius, you know, Kang the Conqueror's essential statue is the one directly in the center. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we've kind of seen that a little bit throughout the episodes of her being very close to that particular statue, or he's always the one in the center. And in the comics, they actually did have a relationship themselves, the Judge and Kang. And I feel like, Al, I think you're onto something with her actually running the show. I feel like Kang is the only timekeeper left, like
Mm-hmm.
alive, and she has him imprisoned. And I feel
Mm-hmm.
like the end of this series is going to be him being freed, and then he's going to go wreak havoc.
And then that's Ant-Man, because that right
Yeah,
because he's in
and that goes right
Quantumania.
into him. Yep,
Okay.
and I feel that leads right into that. So
Okay.
that's what I'm thinking there. Because I was like, I'm trying, like, because, the way she kind of commands the scenes and makes it so that way none of us can go see the timekeepers but me. I'm the
Yeah.
only one who has access to them. It makes it seem like she's the one kind of leading the show from me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, with this episode, I agree with you, Alan, in terms of this was a lot of filler, like, them landing in Lamentis in 2077, as the planet's being destroyed. I had to think about Lamentis in general, and I never really seemed like a important place in Marvel Comics history. So like it just kind of seemed like just a reason for them to be somewhere else because the thing is broken and all that stuff. And I agree that I feel like this episode was a lot of just them getting to know each other. Now, the end of this episode, which felt very one shot, and I know it wasn't, but it felt that way. I think it was alluded to feel that way. The whole getting off the planet. How did we feel about that, like, cinematography of that scene? Because, like, there was a lot going on between them fighting off, people, everybody kind of looking in despair as things are exploding, breaking. Al, what was your thoughts on that, like, last 5 minutes?
It was just it threw me off a little bit because out of nowhere, all of a sudden, Loki's using powers I never knew he had. Like when the building almost fell on them, he stopped the building and rewound it and put it back. To the point where I've seen memes and people talk about, does he have the time stone? So because he never had that ability or has never shown it. So are they using this show to add abilities to him?
Mm-hmm.
That because now since he's a variant, does he start taking on abilities that other variants had? But to your point, I didn't understand the scene. Like I understand they have to run around, but how did this other organization now know that they were there?
Yeah,
And with
I didn't get that either.
everything going on, why would they even bother to deal with them? The whole planet is about to die, and you still feel the need to rein these two in because they jumped the train. Like
Yeah.
I
And
didn't.
especially with crowds of people there, they specifically picked these two people as the whole planet's crumbling under these really dim lights. They
Yeah,
found these two guys, and we have to make sure we pick on them.
yeah.
Sanj, what was your take on that last 5 minutes?
It just seems like a lot going on, and like you guys said, that for them to focus in on them too is peculiar. So you want to know why? Is there some other way that information is getting out? Is there some other group then that's pulling strings behind the scenes also, and there's some sort of, a back and forth going on between them, and that's what's really going on. Like the TVA and somebody else, because like when they got on train, it was peculiar. Like that one guy just looked at the two of them and went and said something to somebody, to the authorities per se, right? And then they got into the fight with them there. I'm like, it doesn't make a lot of sense just yet.
Yeah. It seemed like they were making conflict to have conflict.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, Al, to your point, like, you said that Loki saw the building falling and he either rewound time or fixed it himself. How come he just didn't do that with the remote earlier in the episode?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that was the thing I caught, and I was just like, why didn't he just fix it? Like it was one of those things. Like it seemed like they were giving him powers just to have powers or to make the scene look better or cooler. But to you guys' points that we talked about earlier was who's getting them off this planet. How are they getting off? Is Mobius going to show up last second and pull them off? What's going to happen here? And kind of where do you think this is going at this point? Sanj, where do you think this is? We have 3 episodes left after this. Where are we going from this point?
I honestly don't know, but it looks like what Al was saying about how the judge, right? She's hiding something, and it's gonna come back full circle to where she's at and what she's hiding at the TVA. I think that's where it's going, and I think Loki and Sylvie are not the only ones trying to get at them. There's more than them trying to get at them, and that's where we're going with it, because maybe along the way something's just not right, and people started to realize how much is just not right, and then they're gonna come for them at the TVA, and that's when all hell's gonna break loose.
I'm waiting for that. Al, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, because remember, this is time. Everything with this is time. So everything can play out, and the TVA can still literally show up at the last second because they're going back to that time. So the way I see them getting out is, yes, of course, the TVA is going to show up at the last second because Loki already put them on that they're hiding in world-ending events. So they're going to come to every probably world-ending event and look for them and then find them, with the variance detector that they have for time distortion, whatever it was that they were using. So I see them being saved. And now that Loki knows they're all variants, I see him putting Mobius onto that, letting him know you're just a variant like me. There's nothing special about you. They didn't make you. And then that getting into Mobius's head and him putting together the clues, because remember, he keeps referencing some other agent that the judge was using, the rings on the table, the cup on the bookshelf. So I think that's going to then be a domino effect into exposing everything that's going on there.
Yeah, guess we'll find out on Wednesday, because I'm hoping that this Wednesday, I'm hoping is more action, less filler, like this past week. So I'm waiting to see what we get from here, because we got 3 left, because there's 6 episodes for this one, right?
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to see like shit hit the fan. I'm waiting for Loki to tell Mobius that he's a variant too, and things just blow up from there. So we'll see what happens this Wednesday. I'm excited. I hope this episode's a little longer too.
Yeah.
So
they
guys,
us on the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It felt long and it was super short.
Yep.
So I'm hoping this one it evens out a bit. So guys, we're gonna end it there for tonight. We had a blast going to go see Fast 9 in the theater, so definitely go get a chance to see it. Bring some friends, have a good time. We don't go in with any expectations, like we said. And then we got Loki episode 4 coming up this week. We've got, after this week, 2 more episodes for the summer, and maybe this leads into the Marvel's What If, right? The What If series that might be happening this summer. So hopefully we continue having some more Marvel. And next week we'll get you back with episode 4 and whatever else we might see. And so, signing off for tonight, we've got our boy Sanj.
Good night, everybody. And as a disclaimer, going to the theaters, we're all of us here on the Real Fan Review. We are fully vaccinated. Just so you know, we are fully vaccinated, and we still wear our masks, except when we're someplace and we're eating and things like that. So we're still taking all precautions as well to keep everybody safe. You guys do the same. I mean, we are encouraged. We do encourage you to get out there if you're comfortable. If you're not, take your time. It's up to you what you want to do, but it's just nice to be back doing some normal things, but continue to be safe, and we'll see it. Everybody will see everybody soon.
Yep.
That's a great message. Love it. And then Al, our man in the chair.
Yeah, just have a good night, everybody, and be safe.
All right, and myself, B. If you're listening on our podcasting app, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that button to keep listening to us every week. If you're on YouTube, hit that little bell in the corner. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can watch us. And we'll catch you next time. See you on the next one.